That was the right one, Shay.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Ishmael. I stopped the recording until we start the actual meeting.
Okay.
Okay, Ishmael, can you, while I go take a quick break, can you let people in? Please.
Oh, wait.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, okay. I had my microphone down, Mary. No wonder they couldn't hear me. Does this sound?
Technology.
Yeah, does it sound too loud?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Oh, what did I just do? What did I just do? Oh, there I am. Okay. Trying to get that light out of my eyes. That's better. I think I'm gonna go get a drink of water.
Hey, Dr. Fed.
Ms. Morreal, I muted you, so. Dr. Beckwith, I have 7 p.m.
Okay, we will start calling the meeting to order. We do have a quorum this evening. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I so move.
Is there a second? Is there a second? She's muted. Ms.
Second.
Oswald, we need a second.
Second.
Ready for the question? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion passes. Announcements, Ms. Oswald,
I have none.
Ms. Morreal,
I have none as well.
I have none. Ms. Fields, do we have any patrons who wish to speak, who signed up to speak to the board?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, then we'll go to Riverview Excellence. Who's going to handle that?
I'm going to start it off, Dr. Beckwith, and then Mr. Sistrunk's going to take it from there. So good evening, everyone, Special Administrative Board, colleagues, and community. School board service can seem like a thankless task, yet school board members devote countless hours to making critical decisions that benefit the public school students in our communities throughout the state. To honor board members, Governor Parsons has designated the week of February the 14th through February the 20th of 2021 as Missouri School Board Recognition Week. The goal of this week is to increase awareness and understanding of the crucial function an elected Board of Education plays in the success and advancement of our public schools. With that being said, Mr. Sistrunk.
Thank you, Dr. Spurgeon. And as Dr. Spurgeon mentioned, this past week, February 14th through the 20th, was School Board Recognition Week. So we would like to take the opportunity to honor our special administrative board members, Dr. Lynn Beckwith, the chair, Mrs. Veronica Morreal, the vice chair, and Mary Oswald, the secretary/treasurer. And Ms. Shay Fields is going to pull up a video that we have. I'm not going to read the justification because we have a special presentation for you.
You can turn it up, Shay.
Yeah, we don't have the volume.
Thank you for caring about us.
Dr. Beckwith has served as the SAB chair since June of 2010. He has also served as the board president for the St. Louis County Library Board of Trustees since March of 2010. For his dedicated years of service, the St. Louis County Library recently announced that its new administration building will be named the Lynn Beckwith Jr. Administrative Building.
Thank you still for all you do.
Mrs. Morreal has served as the vice chair of the SAB since June of 2010. She is a community development assistant at CNB St. Louis Bank. She was recently named as part of the Neighborhood Leadership Fellows 2021 cohort. She also serves as a committee member of the St. Louis Regional Financial Empowerment Coalition. Mrs. Oswald is a retired teacher who has served as the SAB secretary and treasurer since May of 2019. She also served as a member of RGSD school board from 2003 through 2010. She has been a resident of the district for 53 years and put 6 children through RGSD schools. She previously represented Bell Fountain Neighbors for the Missouri extension of St. Louis County and is currently a board member of the Riverview Gardens Education Foundation.
How y'all doing? My name is Jamiri Bunch. I'm an honor roll student at Riverview Gardens High School, and I am currently the member at large of Gentlemen of Vision.
How you doing today? My name is Daryl Burkhalter. I'm an honor roll student at Riverview Gardens High School, and I'm the vice president of Gentlemen of Vision. And we want to thank the Special Administration Board for everything they do. From the GOV
to the SAB, Happy School Board Recognition Week.
GOV!
Caring about us, and thank you for everything you do so much. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Thank you for that, Shay. And so
Yay!
That was
you,
absolutely
Special
great.
That was
Absolutely great. That was a first. Well, very well done, especially hearing
Yeah.
from the children.
Yeah, that was nice. That was really nice.
I want to also mention that I have several gifts in my office for the Special Administrative Board. I will coordinate with you with picking those up or dropping them off.
Okay, very
And
good.
I also want to say thank you, the Special Administrative Board, for all your work and with me these last 8 years. And we normally have a little get together after the board meetings when we recognize you during this week of special recognition, but we're going to hold off on that. Hopefully sometime April or May where we can get back together again, where we can have individuals come for a little meet and greet afterwards. So thank you for all your service and all that you do for the Riverview Gardens School District.
Thank you, Dr. Spurgeon.
That was very, very nice. I appreciate it so much. And thank you all for everything. That was great.
oh, you're welcome. And we'll make sure you have a copy of that file so you can view it. You know, streaming it changes a little bit, buffers a little bit, but we'll make sure you get that. Thanks to Dr. Spurgeon and thanks to all the people that contributed to that video.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was a very,
Thank
very
you.
special touch.
Yeah.
It really was.
That's what I was going to ask for, was a copy of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're now down to the superintendent's report. Dr. Spurgeon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Shay. I should be able to share my screen, I hope.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay, so good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues and community. This will be the first of many updates that we'll give for the Proposition E timeline. I wanted to make sure that the Special Administrative Board is kept abreast of all the activities and the timelines and dates for the things in which we have done, the things that we're currently doing, and things we have coming up. And so you have a copy of this attached to my superintendent's report. So you can read through the first couple of things, but I wanted to make note that, you know, if community members are asking, was this something that just all of a sudden happened? Well, no, you know, the Special Administrative Board approved to start planning this Proposition E back in October the 13th, you'll see right there. So we've been planning this for quite some time. It's not something that was just thought of on a whim that we decided, well, this is something we're going to do. We've been planning this for quite a number of months. So if we go down to page number 2, a couple of things I want to highlight that I thought were milestones. Mr. Singleton has been really, really busy filing with Missouri Ethics Commission. He's also opened a bank account to set up for the committee to pass Proposition E. So anyone on this call, and Ishmael, I'm going to have you when I get done here to give everyone the PayPal information and where they can send their checks to, because Dr. Beckwith and Special Administrative Board, what I've asked is, I think every single employee of this district can contribute something to the campaign, since everyone stands to benefit if when we get this Proposition E passed with, you know, with an upgrade to a potential salary schedule and things like that. So I've asked all the administrators to share that with their classroom teachers, that, you know, whether it's $2, $5, $10, or $100, whatever it might be, that money right there is the only money that we can use to purchase signs to be able to say, vote yes. Everything else that we buy or purchase from the district can just be informational only. Mr. Singleton has also been busy filing our information with the IRS. He's also filed with the state on February the 3rd. Mr. Sistrunk has been extremely busy. He completed the design of the postcards, and he's obtained quotes for printing those postcards. If you remember last time for Proposition R, we had door hangers that we hung on doors. We had signs that we gave for people to put in their yards. And we also had postcards that we had for our mailing. So Mr. Sistrunk has been very, very busy. I want to thank him and his work for that as well. He's also been busy with our media campaign communication. He's met with Outfront Media, 104.1 and 96.3, as well as 95.5 that we utilized last time in Proposition R, that I'll be doing some spots on there with some releases, press releases for that. Mr. Sistrunk's already done the Prop E logo and fact book cover designs. Dr. Patton has been busy as well. We started our very first informational campaign through our community food distribution program, which we see a number of families that come through there. So we're handing out information and flyers and answering questions about Proposition E. Mr. Sistrunk also completed the yard sign design on February the 15th. And you see a number of things there. We've been in a number of organizational meetings, council meetings, and such. And then the last couple of things that I push here is our social media push begins tomorrow, and that we're also going to be meeting with the St. Louis American Editorial Board on March the 2nd, which they were very instrumental in our success of Proposition R. So we're meeting with Dr. Suggs and his editorial team in March, so March the 2nd. So I want to make sure that the Special Administrative Board gets a copy of this, that we do this ongoing each meeting, so that we're able to add to what we're doing, what we have done. And I ask anybody on this meeting or anybody that's out there listening through the YouTube right now, if there's any other community meetings, any other community opportunities, any other community gatherings that we can be a part of and present our informational piece on Proposition E, that whether it's on a Saturday, a Sunday, a Monday, or through the week, whatever time it is, that we will have someone there to make sure we get the information out. So just wanted to make sure that the Special Administrative Board is fully aware of what's happening from the very beginning all the way until we pass Proposition E in April.
Ms. Mario, any questions?
I wanted to find out if it would be if the SAB can also contribute or no.
Yes, ma'am. The SAB can contribute it's called the Committee to Pass Proposition E. And you can make checks payable to that committee. It's the Committee to Pass Proposition E. But there's also a special PayPal account that's been set up that I know I've submitted, and several cabinet members have also submitted money through PayPal to be able to contribute to that account. Because again, that account can be used for saying vote yes. The district can only purchase informational pieces like April 6th, vote Proposition E, or information about the proposition itself. But the committee can do more than that by saying yes, because it's a nonpartisan committee like we are.
Good. Okay.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions. That was my question.
Okay. Dr. Spurgeon, this is an impressive list. I'm pleased that a lot of work seems to have been already done, and look forward to you forwarding that information to us and additional reports at future board meetings. Well
Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is starting this weekend and any weekend that's available thereafter, all the way up through April, we'll be doing some canvassing in the neighborhoods and passing out some additional information for Proposition E. So like I've told everybody at council meetings and mayors, anybody I've get a chance to talk to, this is the most important decision for our school district that we've had since I've been here in 8 years, because we have to continue to be able to sustain a high quality educational program. And based on what we've been through with student transfer and with the governor withholding money and a number of other factors, we need this money to be able to continue to pay our teachers, to keep our teachers, to attract and retain them, and to be able to offer some programs and services, as well as offer some additional services for early child education, to be able to expand our transportation, to be able to offer some bells and whistles. And keep in mind that the computers that we have for this year for virtual education, I believe, even though the pandemic has been extremely negative for a lot of folks, I believe the use of technology for our students is going to pay us great dividends because of their advanced technological skills that we picked up during this pandemic time. So, and again, keep in mind that there's not money set aside to be able to upgrade or to replace the computers that we've purchased for the pandemic piece this past year. So we're going to have additional money to be able to do that. So this is the most important decision in our district that I've been a part of since I've been here. So I would encourage everyone to talk to everyone you know. Every single vote counts. We need 50% plus one vote, and we can't leave one stone unturned. So we're doing the best we can. If the Special Administrative Board has any additional suggestions or ideas or informations or communities or committees that we can get to, we'll take anything and everything we can get a part of, because we'll be in front of anybody and everybody we can.
Dr. Spurgeon, are board members allowed to canvass as well?
Absolutely, on the weekends, outside of your regular work hours. Since you're already a Special Administrative Board member, as long as you're outside the work hours, you should be able to canvass, because we'll be passing out just general information about Proposition E.
Okay.
Does that end your report, Dr. Spurgeon?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we're
And
now
can I
down.
give the,
Go on.
sorry, Dr. Beckwith, I just wanted to verbally give out that information for the donations. I placed it in the chat, but some people are watching on the YouTube stream. So if they don't have the chat, I just wanted to give that information. So if you wanted to donate via PayPal, you can go to paypal.me and then it's /RGSD Prop E. That way you can donate electronically. If anybody wants to send a check in, you make that to Committee to Pass Proposition E, and you can send that to Levon Singleton's attention. That's 1370 Northumberland Drive, St. Louis, Missouri, 63137.
Thank you.
We're not too proud to beg, are we, Ms. Sistrunk? We'll take every dollar to $100 or $1,000, whatever it takes. This is extremely important for our school district and for our children.
Yes.
We're now down to our information items. Prop R update, Ms. Green.
Good evening, Special Administration Board members, Superintendent, and colleagues and community. I present to you the Proposition R update. Shay, do we have that slide? Those slides? Okay, if we go to the next page, we see the completed projects. These are projects that have been completed for a while now. Some of them are the flooring at Danforth Choir Room. We can go to the next page. More completed projects such as parking lots at high school, Central Middle School, our phone system, water line at Danforth. Next page, please. We've completed phase 1 of our alarm system upgrade, the district wireless upgrade, excuse me, high school roof building number 9. Next page. We have also completed phase 1 of our rooftop units, and I'm in the process of completing some information to give to Ameren. So far, I've calculated from our phase 1, so far I calculated that we will get an incentive or rebate back from Ameren. I calculated so far about $8,000, maybe $10,000 or more. I'm still in the process of completing that paperwork. And once I get that all completed and they give us a go, they will be giving us money back in form of a check. We have completed all playgrounds at all of our elementary schools. The central office electrical upgrade. Next slide, please. More completed projects are the building access and the emergency repairs at Westview. Next page. So right now we are currently completing our phase 2 of the RTU units. We were waiting for warmer weather, so they will be doing some more work in our district this week and next week, as long as the weather is above 50 degrees. And that too will be part of Ameren rebate. I'll be filling out paperwork once that's completed to see about getting some money back through that rebate program. And our MBE-WB participation has been 70% on this project. Right now, we're currently doing our district-wide HVAC controls. That too will also qualify for some Ameren rebates. So I just got an email back to say that we're going to start Metals and Highland. And from those 2 projects alone, we'll have potentially $45,000 that will come back to the district through that rebate. And so as we begin those projects and complete them, I will always submit to see about getting Ameren rebates back. Next page, please. So the upcoming projects that we have now, we're going to concentrate on our security upgrades. So that will be district-wide key fobs so that we can get exterior door keys out of people's hands, because I've been getting a lot of calls that people have been losing keys or they've been stolen. So with these key fobs, we can give them to people and take exterior door keys out of their hands. And if they lose those, we can easily disable them from computer. We're also going to do security camera upgrades. We're trying to get new camera upgrades. I equate it to iPhone updates. Right now, our camera system, we're at an iPhone 3. So we're trying to get our cameras upgraded to iPhone 12. I'm just using that as an example so that we can do some face recognition, some night vision, so that when there's something going on at our schools, we can easily identify any perpetrators. We're also doing interactive boards through technology, and I'm working on an RFP to do some district-wide painting classroom hallways and things like that. And then also we'll be reaching back out to the BJC people to move forward and get more information to move forward with our school-based health center. So this slide here just shows the different colors show what we have done, and all these things line up with what we promised during our Prop R campaign. So you'll see those things that have been completed, those things that are in progress, and those things that are upcoming. Next slide, please. So summary to date, board has approved 24 projects. We have 22 that are completed, 2 projects that are ongoing. Right now, as to date, our MBE participation is 33%. Our WBE participation is at 7%. And that concludes my presentation, my part. So I think Mr. Singleton will talk to you all about our financial piece.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Thank you. Let me say publicly, Ms. Green, thank you for all that you're doing with Prop R and keeping these projects in the face of our residents and our staff. I just think you're doing an amazing job. So let me just say thank you. To the Special Administrative Board, Dr. Spurgeon, community colleagues, the finance report for Prop R, the budget summary. Again, every month we try to give you an update on the financials, what we've spent, and where things are. You can see the original $8.9 million budget. We've got about $1.8 million remaining. All the other projects and fund and balances are either in, as Ms. Green mentioned, they are complete, and there are a lot of these projects that are in progress. So we've come a long way. We've still got a little bit of a remaining balance that we will get rid of, but eventually that money will dwindle down once we have all those projects on schedule. So again, I won't go through line by line. You're aware of the playground upgrades, the HVAC, the security. That project is underway. We've met with Dr. Patton and the safety and security team, and we've identified some projects that we're going to move forward with. So all of those things, we're committed to making sure that we're doing exactly what we said we're doing with those Prop R dollars. Shay, go down a little bit to the bottom, and the last slides there, again, just talks about the soft costs. Those numbers there, the $1.8 million that's remaining, and those things that are going to be covered with those soft cost funds. Are there any questions regarding the financials for Prop R?
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
Ms. Oswald? Ms. Oswald? I have no questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Morrill, any questions about Ms. Green's presentation?
I have no questions. It was very good.
Okay. Ms. Oswald?
I was wondering what we're doing with the rebate dollars.
So I'll try to answer that. So obviously those rebate dollars are for those specific projects that are out there. When we do those projects, we get the rebate, so we get the monies associated with those. So some of those rebate funds, obviously it's going to come back to the district, but we would like to reduce those budgets and use those rebates in place of using the district dollars to continue moving those projects forward. So for instance, if we get a $50,000 rebate, that's less, that's $50,000 less of our own funds that we'll use, and we'll put those rebate funds back into the project to finish those. So that's immediately what we plan to do with those rebate funds.
Thank you.
Thank
My comments are to Ms. Green. I remember when we started Prop R, I mentioned to her that as president of the St. Louis County Library District, we were having trouble meeting our 15% minority participation. And I remember her telling me, you won't have a problem with that, Dr. Beckwith. And here's proof of the pudding, 33% MBE and 7% WBE. And I just want to commend Ms. Green on bringing home the bacon in that way. Question for her. I remember at previous meetings, I've asked about looking into security for our rooftop units. As we recall, when we first came on the board, the rooftop unit at Central was really vandalized. Have we looked into that anymore, Ms. Green?
Yes, sir, I have. I'm waiting for a company to get back with me. I looked at two companies. One company will cost us about $60,000 every year for the cell tower or the cell phone, so to speak, for the system. Another company that's going to send me a prototype is one that we can tie into the computer, and it will show a picture and send out an alarm if somebody breaks the beam or whatever. So I'm waiting for them to send me that information.
Okay. And that might be one of the ways we could use the rebate money toward that. And the last thing, it was the rebates. Great work on getting applying for the rebates for RTUs. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's go to Prop E update. Mr. Singleton.
Thank you, Dr. Beckwith. Shay, will you share the screen? Thank you. So as Dr. Spurgeon so eloquently mentioned in his presentation, his superintendent's report, Proposition E is upon us. I think we're about maybe 5-6 weeks away, and Proposition E will be here. So April the 6th. So I wanted to share with the board, we promised that we would give a Prop E update on each of the board meetings leading up into the passage of Proposition E. And we are confident, and we're going to work hard, and we're going to make sure the Prop E passes in our school district. So we have put the show on the road, so to speak. We've had meetings with various constituents, state legislatures, state senators, all of the key stakeholders in the community. We have got our levy committee who faithfully meets every Wednesday, and Mrs. Oswald is a part of that committee. As Dr. Spurgeon mentioned, we've done so many other things to really get Proposition E moving. And so we plan some canvassing activities for this weekend. We get some signs and things ordered on tomorrow, and we are moving forward full speed ahead. This is the fact book that I wanted to share with the SAB and the public. The fact book really contains a lot of the information and details or questions that may come up about Proposition E. The first part of here talks about the voter registration information. Again, you have to be 17 and a half years or older to vote by election day. So that's a key piece of it. The Board of Elections information is included here. Also the key dates of March 10th. So we got about another week and a half, 2 weeks, which is the deadline to register to vote in this upcoming municipal election. The election date is April the 6th. So that information is there as well. Keep going down. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Shay. The accreditation, district mission, all of the communities that we serve about 8 surrounding communities. Bellefonte Neighbors, Castle Point, Delwood, Glasgow Village, Moline Acres, Riverview, and portions of Jennings, Ferguson, Jennings, and unincorporated St. Louis County. And of course, the district's website is there. The next page deals with some of the district accomplishments. The district accomplishments are here. how we have gained provisional accreditation as of 2017. Again, very proud to let the public know and everyone know that we are one-to-one with technology. And we've got to we've got some additional computers to make sure that we can remain one-to-one. We're bragging on the end of the student transfer program, a very costly program, but it is coming to a climax here very soon. This coming May, we have one student left in the program, and that student will be finishing. And we can and the transfer program will have officially ended. And so those are just some of the accomplishments that we've made as a school district that we want to share in our fact book. Next page, Shay.
Hold on, Mr. Singleton. I would prefer that the board make suggestions if they have any on each page. And on this page, district accomplishments, I would suggest put the accomplishments in chronological order, starting with the earliest and coming up to most recent, because as it goes back and forth. And I just think it would give a better picture if we started with the first one, which would be October 2016, and just build on that and come up to the present.
Thank you. We'll make note of that. Okay. Any other questions about the accomplishments page?
I have none.
Okay, let's move to the next page then. So this starts the frequently asked questions section, and these are questions that are legitimate questions that may come up. So, will the district have a measure on the April the 6th ballot? Yes, the district's Proposition E, an operating tax levy increase, is on the April 6th ballot. Who determined that there should be a tax levy? The specific items to be included in the amount. Again, we share the information here where the SAB, after previous meetings and deliberations, there was a unanimous vote to allow us, the district administration, to place Proposition E, the operating tax levy increase, on the April the 6th ballot. And so subsequent to this, we filed all the paperwork necessary to place this on the ballot. Again, 50% plus one majority vote is what's required to pass Proposition E. The next question, go down a little bit more. Shay says, how will the bond issue read on the, how will the tax levy read on the ballot? And this is the language. So when you go to the polls, if you're a registered voter in the Riverview Gardens School District, you will see Proposition E, the official ballot language, asks, for the purpose of maintaining the current level of student programs, increasing salaries to attract and retain high-quality teachers, support staff and administrators striving to regain full accreditation, equipping facilities and paying general operating expenses, shall the Special Administrative Board of the School District of Riverview Gardens, St. Louis County, Missouri, be authorized to increase the operating tax levy ceiling of the district by $1.65 per $100 of assessed valuation. If this proposition is approved, the adjusted operating levy of the district per $100 of assessed valuation is estimated to be $5.79 for residential real property, $6 for commercial real property, $5.86 for agricultural real property, and $5.76 for personal property. Next page. Are there any questions about this?
Yes, Shay, go back up to the first page up on this section for questions. The second question and the answer, when we go down to the 3.481 million, I think it's important to put the word annually in there. And that's just a suggestion. So we're being transparent that if I'm correct, that's the increased amount we will get annually.
And Dr. Beckwith, let me add to that, not only annually, but also based on the current district's assessed valuation, because that number could fluctuate based on the assessed valuation.
Good point. Good point.
Okay.
And Mr. Singleton, do I need to send these to you later?
We are taking notes, Dr. Beckwith, but it would be good. No, it would be good to cross-reference to make sure we captured everything.
All righty.
Any additional questions on this page? All right, let's move to the next page. What's the difference between a tax levy and a bond issue? Very important question. We are not placing a bond issue on the ballot. We are requesting a tax levy increase. And a tax levy is an increase in the property tax levy rates. So everybody who pays taxes in the district has a rate that they're assessed. So we're increasing that rate. And that's primarily used to generate operating funds for day-to-day expenses. Unless otherwise, a tax levy is permanent. So this levy increase is permanent, okay? So it's not gonna go up 1 year and go back down. It's a permanent increase to the operating tax levy in the school district. The difference between this and a bond issue is a bond issue is used to generate funds for maintaining or improving district facilities or for equipment and technology, okay? So bond issues are typically not to be spent on salary, okay? The sales of bonds by district is a long-term obligation that is paid by a debt service tax levy for a period usually about 20 years, much like a home mortgage. Bond issue funds cannot be used for operating purposes. So that's a very important point to know that the bond issues, again, Proposition R was a bond issue, all right? And those monies cannot go to fund salaries or many of the operating expenses. Those were for improvement of district facilities. So there's a difference between a tax levy and a bond issue, and we're pursuing the tax levy increase. The next question asks, how will the tax levy funds be spent? We go into that information there about expanding early childhood access. Again, we talked about how early childhood is present in just one of our buildings. We'd like to incorporate it at some of the additional elementary schools. Also, we'd like to expand door-to-door transportation. And again, enhancing our salary schedule. We have to attract and retain high-quality staff. And we know that's been a challenge in our school district, and ensuring that our district goals are aligned with state standards. The next question asks, what are the difference between operating and capital funds? Operating funds are unrestricted and can be used for salary, benefit, supplies, custodial utility costs. Capital funds are used for the purchase of buildings and equipment, erection of buildings, renovation of existing buildings, and the purchase of capital equipment items such as computers. So there's a difference between an operating fund and a capital fund. Operating funds are unrestricted. There's no limit. You can use salary, benefits, those things. Capital funds are only for the improvement of the buildings, and so that's what those funds have to be allocated for. Are there any questions on this page?
I've been going first, so Ms. Oswald, you have any questions?
No.
Ms. Morreale?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to comment that this is really, really important to have these types of things spelled out, because it'll really just help educate the voter.
Thank you.
So I'm really glad that you did this.
Right, and I agree with that. Even teaching educational administration classes at AMSO, students, very few of the grad students understood the difference between a bond issue and a tax levy. Mm-hmm. And I'm worried that if we don't understand it, the patrons are going to ask us, well, we just gave you money a few years ago when we passed Prop R. Mm-hmm. Yes, you did, but that was for maintenance and building and so forth. We can't use that money for books and salary increases and so forth. Mr. Singleton, in question 2, have a concern with the third line, expanding door-to-door transportation. And my concern is some will interpret that to mean you will pick my child up at our home and deliver him back to our home.
So that's a good observation, Dr. Beckwith. I think we will refine and make sure that we reword that to really reflect that. I think the goal of this service here is to provide transportation within a mile. Okay. So it's not necessarily door to door, from front door picking up and front door returning. But as you know, we are not required, state law does not require us to provide transportation if you live within a mile radius of the school. So if you live less than a mile of the school, you're not afforded transportation. We'd like to use some of these dollars to expand transportation and bring those scholars who may have to cross dangerous intersections or who do live within a mile radius of the school, but they live in dangerous areas. We'd like to provide transportation to those scholars as well. So I appreciate that, and we will certainly make sure that we give that wording the proper terminology.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Singleton, it could be expanding transportation to students who live within a mile.
Okay.
Right.
It could be just as simple as that.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. Next page, the questions here. When was the last time the district passed a tax levy or bond issue? Again, we get back into this, and you're right, Dr. Beckwith. Someone may say, well, we just passed a tax levy. No, we didn't just pass a tax levy issue. We passed a bond issue. And April the 3rd, 2018 was Prop R. We got $11.7 million, and it was to repair, renovate, revitalize the facilities and the schools. And it focused on certain projects: upgrading safety and security, heating and air conditioning, technology systems, classroom and interior renovations, rooftop repairs, playground upgrades, restroom renovation. All these things are what Mrs. Green just went over in her presentation of Proposition R. And so April the 3rd was the last time we passed a bond issue. All right. So I wanted to make sure that we're clear on that. And also, why is Riverview Gardens District submitting a tax levy to the voters? Thanks to a successful bond issue in 2018, a great many improvements and upgrades were made district-wide. However, funds raised through a bond issue are limited in their capacity, okay? And we have to make very clear, yes, we receive funds from Prop R, but those funds cannot go to enhance your salary schedule. That's not what those funds are utilized to do. And so that's the reason we're submitting a tax levy increase, because this is where you go to the voters and ask for those additional adjustments or incentives in order to do transportation, in order to increase your salary schedule, in order to align curriculum to those state standards. All of those things have to be done through another fund generator. And that's what Proposition E is going to be designed to do. Are there any questions here on this page?
Comment, Mr. Singleton. We only answered part of that question. What was the last time the district passed a tax levy or bond issue? We answered the bond issue. We didn't answer the tax levy. And I think that's important because I know we haven't had a tax levy since the SAB took over, and that would be 2010. I can't say before then, but 10 years is a long time. Someone who's been around longer than I, maybe Ms. Oswald or Maura Real, can say the last time a tax levy will pass, but I think it's critically important. We haven't had one of these in 10 years or more, if we don't know the exact date.
Right.
Do you have any idea, Ms. Oswald?
I don't know the exact date, but it was before 2003, I think.
Okay.
Wow. And I don't know it either, but that was a question that I was going to ask as well. We should put that on there.
Right.
All right. And we will certainly do some digging. It's going to require a lot of historical, digging with that. And the answer very well may be that we have not. The state law allows us to set a levy within those parameters. We talked about that $2.76 all the way up to the $6 limit. So there may not have been an initial one, but again, I don't want to give wrong information. Let us do some more research and dig into you and answer that question with the facts.
If we can't find the answer, we can at least use what Ms. Oswald just said. We are sure that one has not been passed since 2003.
Okay, awesome. Great news. Okay, thank you, Dr. Beckwith. Okay, so next page. Again, and I'm going to try to expedite these pages. A lot of this you have seen. It's really, we brought this information. We talked about Prop R. We're including that in the fact book. It's always good to show our constituents that we have done what we said we are going to do with the monies that you have entrusted us with. And so these are things, as you can see, this is why Prop R was necessary. Look at that before picture, that first before picture, and look at the after picture. All right. Those are building improvements. Okay. You see a big hole in the ceiling in one of the classrooms or one of the hallways. All right. And is that the music room, Ms. Oswald?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So again, we see that that's before, and look at the after picture. Also the before and after with the rooftop units. Okay, very important projects that's happening in our schools. Look at the before and after with the playground. Okay, very, very important. You see the before, you see the rubber on the slides that was torn and all over the place. The after pictures show that our children now have state-of-the-art equipment to play on. And we think that those are very good uses of Proposition R funds. So these are completed projects. We wanted to show the before and afterwards. Are there any questions on that page?
I have none.
Okay, next page talks about the operating tax levy. This information, what exactly are we asking the voters to consider? We give you the current rates, we're going to show you the new Prop E rates. So that's what this slide simply does. It shows you where the current rates are, and then it lets you look at the new Prop E rates, the $5.79 and the $6. Again, I read this in the ballot language. Are there any questions on this page?
I have none.
None.
All right, thank you. Next page talks about what's the percentage of votes that's needed to pass, the 50% plus one that has to say yes to this. So April the 6th, it's there. The graphic here shows that we're within those boundaries, that we only need a simple majority of the voters required to pass this. All right, we're not going above $6. If we did that, we would be we would need a 2/3 majority. Any questions on this page?
No questions.
Okay. Next page here talks about how much will my taxes increase if this measure is passed. We give some examples and scenarios based on the value of your home. So if your home is valued at $60,000, for instance, it shows the tax impact. Up to $100,000, it shows the tax impact. It shows our assessed valuation. And again, there's going to be some minor fluctuations here depending on where assessed valuation is when Proposition E passes. Okay, this is a reassessment year. We don't expect the number to change a whole lot, but we have to use the information that's currently available to us. So are there any questions here on this slide on the taxable impact?
Mr. Singleton, do we not have homes in our district below 60,000?
I have not done the research, Ms. Oswald. I don't want to speculate, but I believe every community has a segment of homes that fall below that barrier there. I think we did kind of an average when we were looking at this several months ago. And so I think that's kind of where the average homes were, in the $60,000 to $100,000 range.
Ms. Oswald, I've seen for a number of years since I've been here, there have been homes that are auctioned off at $8,000 or $10,000. So there's several homes. If I'm not mistaken, the last time I heard this information was probably 3 or 4 years ago. There's a specific part of our district where there might be 180 plus homes that have been condemned or abandoned. So the average home value in certain parts of our district is much less than what it would be in other parts of our district. So the answer is yes, we would certainly have houses that would be valued at less than $60,000.
Well, my concern is if people aren't reading all of the numbers and just looking at the increase, it's going to cost me $15, whatever, that if we had then a lower amount, that they could see that, no, we're not asking for $16.
Exactly. I mean, it could be $40,000, $30,000 or $20,000. So you actually give some examples lower than 60.
I think that's a good point.
Well, we can talk about it tomorrow
Sure.
when we meet.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on this page?
I have none.
Okay, next page. So the questions here, what will happen if the tax levy does not pass? If Prop E does not pass, we'll not be able to move forward with the plans as described, okay? So when we talk about in improving the salary schedule, attracting and retaining high quality teachers, expanding transportation services, those programs will not be able to move forward, okay? Our community, we're only as strong as our school district, and a strong community typically has a strong school district. And so with that, with this tax levy, we're trying to regain full accreditation. And all of these things are going to be necessary, and it takes dollars to do what we're going to do. I've already described how the states, that state formula has inadequately funded our school district. When the governor has made prorations to what we're doing, it severely impacts the Riverview Gardens School District. And so here we are asking the local taxpayers to assist us with some of those programs so that we can continue to operate at optimal capacity. The next question, I do not have children in Riverview Gardens School District. Is there a benefit for me? Absolutely, if passed. The scope of work provided by Prop E will help support and enhance property values in the district. We have to think that when good things are happening in the school districts, then guess what? The property values and the education level of our scholars, all of that stuff, all of those factors are enhanced, and you have a better and a safer community to live in. And so, yes, there's value for every resident in the Riverview Gardens School District if this passes. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Singleton, I don't think the answer to question 1 is nearly as strong as it needs to be. As I read it, it simply means we will still have the status quo. And my response is, no, we will not still have the status quo, because our fund balance is going to continually decrease. We're going to find ourselves sooner or later on the state's financial stress list. Also, in my judgment, there are going to have to be some retrenchments. There may have to be some staff reductions. If you have kept up with the Francis Howell School District, theirs did not pass, and they are making reductions. They're going to put it back on the ballot, but they are making reductions in staff and so forth. So my point is, we have to also say more than things we won't be able to do what we're asking to do, but we're going to move backwards, okay? And we're going to sooner or later run out of funds. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Beckwith, and we can make this as graphic as it needs to be. But I do like those points that you've made, and we will note those points. And I absolutely agree that the district's fund balance will continue to suffer, and we're going to have to make hard decisions about the curriculum and the programs that we're offering. So all of these things are impacted by Prop E. And yes, if Prop E does not pass, it could essentially mean us coming and looking at our manning table and our teachers, our schedules, or our staffing plan to see if we can sustain. And we know that we cannot sustain if we don't have adequate funding. So those are all downfalls of Proposition E not passing.
And we can use the word may. We don't have to say will, but may. But if people, patrons don't see what's going to happen if it does not pass, then they will assume everything's hunky-dory. Just go on as you are.
Okay. No, duly noted, Dr. Beckwith. And I know you'll send me this after the meeting as well.
Correct.
This information, and we'll certainly make sure that this is included in our fact book. All right. Next page, Shay.
Mr. Singleton.
Yes.
The comment that I wanted to make is with this too is that should we start losing staff and what have you, people are going to start moving out of the community to take their children to other school districts.
Yes.
And that's important because we already have a high number of vacancies over and I know Moline, Bell Fountain, and Dalewood.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
And this is also, yes, ma'am, this is another casualty if
Mhm.
Proposition E doesn't pass. So you're
Yes.
exactly right. Thank you, Ms. Morrow Real.
Sure.
So the starting salaries, this is important because we want to show why teachers are leaving Riverview Garden going elsewhere. Because all you got to do is go to Hazelwood or Ferguson, Florissant, or Rittner, another neighboring district, and you could easily make $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 more than the teachers in our school district. And so
Not
we
just
have to
teachers,
improve.
staff also. That's not just make this teachers.
Yeah.
Right. Other staff. That's right. Because we've had a number of secretaries to leave our school districts, and our secretaries are usually the life of our buildings. And so to know that secretaries are leaving, going to other districts, making more money, cooks, instructional aides. A number of districts have a much more competitive salary schedule than ours, and we have to make improvements to our salary schedule if we're going to still provide world-class education in this school district. So as you can see, all of these districts listed here have a higher minimum salary schedule than us.
Mr. Singleton, I think in the interest of transparency, I think I saw in a draft where the Normandy School District starting salary is below ours. Is that correct?
That's the only district below ours. Yes.
Yeah, then to be transparent, I think we need to add Normandy to show that somebody is below us. And I know we what the message is, but we need to be transparent as far as I'm concerned and include Normandy in there.
Okay, we have that information. We can add that back in.
So is there a page, Mr. Singleton, where you talk about the salary? This is geared toward our teachers, but is there another page that talks about our support staff, secretaries, all of that? Or is this like a rough?
Yeah. Well, this information, I forget who published it. Dr. Spurgeon, who publishes the salaries for teachers and administrators? Is that a DESE publication?
No, I'll let Dr. Spurgeon answer.
I think
it's Education Plus.
Education Plus, that's right, Dr. Beckwith. So Education Plus, Ms. Morrow Real, does those studies and provides this data.
Okay.
And this is what we had available to us. I don't know that they track it for support staff, but I'd be willing to take a look and see if we can find that information as well.
Okay. If you all think that it'll, have an impact.
And I think it will. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because across the board, you will see, and we'll share this with you. We have high vacancies right now in our cooks. And we're paying our cooks $11.69 an hour. Okay. And they're not even full time. Our custodians are we just put a general maintenance position out there for custodians, paying $12.69. Do we realize that you can go to McDonald's and make minimum wage at $15 an hour?
Right.
You can make more money at McDonald's than you can as a custodian or as a cook in the Riverview Gardens School District.
Right.
Mr. Singleton?
Yes.
I believe every superintendent is sent that data on support staff, teachers, and so forth. So Dr. Spurgeon may have that. If not, I'm pretty sure I have it on some of the non-certificated staff. But
and yes, Dr. Beckwith, I do have that information. The Ed Plus usually updates that each year, so I do have that information.
Good.
Okay. All right, and we'll include it in our updated information booklet for Proposition E. So these are all good comments. Next page, Shay. So this is just statistics for the school district. Good information to know. The 2020-2021 district statistics. Our district enrollment as of February 17th, about 5,200. Of course, this is down, okay? We're in a period where we're seeing our enrollment declining. And that's also another issue if Proposition E does not pass, we'll continue to see our enrollment decline. We've got the facility age and also the population, the student population at all of the schools. So that's important if the public wants to know how old are the buildings and where the students are. Can you go down to the next? Oh, are there any questions about the information here?
I have
Yes,
none.
Mr. Singleton, I think the age of the facilities is a distractor because that has to do with Proposition, a bond issue. I really don't see how that helps. And
right, and I think, I think this information was included in the Prop R fact book, and it was relevant for Prop R, but I think we will. I think we should omit it here in terms of Proposition E. So,
and then the other thing, I would use the same term that you have for total district enrollment rather than population use enrollment.
Okay. Okay.
That's it.
All right, no problem. And then the last page just really gives the tax levy team. It talks about the Special Administrative Board. And let me say this, Ms. Mara-Real, you asked if the board can contribute to the committee. Absolutely. In fact, Dr. Beckwith was the second person to bring me his check for $100. Okay. So I certainly encourage if you and Mrs. Oswald are able to do that as well, please get it to me in central office as soon as we can so that we can get the literature necessary to help pass and support Proposition E. All right. This is the administration.
Who was the first person?
Well, yours truly was the first person because
I knew it.
I had to go and start. I had to go and start the bank account. So. But since then, of course, Dr. Spurgeon and Dr. Triplett, Dr. Nichols, all of the cabinet members have contributed.
Wonderful.
And so we are just, everybody is doing what they can. The principals have started to contribute. I know I've seen a donation from the high school principal and one of the elementary principals. We had a meeting today, and I think those donations will start to roll in as well. Mr. Sistrunk, he's contributed. Ms. Green, I don't want to start naming names because you always forget somebody.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. Everybody is on board with making contributions to Proposition E. We all stand to benefit. And so we're just glad that everyone is doing what they can. The RGNEA has volunteered their phone bank. So they're going to be supporting us with making phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to Dr. Jared Smith. And our A students will be getting involved with Proposition E. So we are reaching across every spectrum to get the Proposition E passed. And so I'm very proud. And so this is the committee. Tomorrow, we have our standing committee meeting at 4:00. Ms. Oswald sits on that committee. And we have conversations about how to move this thing forward. We're talking to parents and legislators. And so I am just very proud to be a part of this. I know it's going to be a success, but it's going to take the work of everybody on this call in this school district and this community to help bring some equity to the educational services we provide for our scholars. Are there any questions about this page?
Page 14, and I'm going to say that Shay has something to do with this. When I write letters and I CC, if anybody has a doctorate, I always put Dr. So-and-so. But she reminded me, if you're going to do that, other people will have titles too, whether it's Miss or Mr. So just for your consideration, so Shay will hear me, either we drop the doctors or we add, I suggest we add the Miss or Mrs. Mr. or Ms.
Understood.
Just a comment.
No, that's a good observation as well. So this is a document that belongs to all of us. And so I think the input from everyone is very, very much appreciated, and we encourage it. And so we will make these adjustments, and the next time that you'll see this information, we will incorporate those changes and make any other improvements that we see that this needs to be made. So that will conclude my informational item regarding Proposition E. Are there any more questions?
No.
If
Uh,
not, in the
the-
chat box, let me say this, in the chat box, there is a link to the PayPal account. So anybody, whoever wants to give to the committee, again, the district can buy signs that just say Proposition E. We announce the date, that's all. But the committee can buy the partisan signs, vote to pass, please support, okay? So we have to make sure that we have both of those. And so we need to make sure we have enough money to fund the committee. So Dr. Larry, I'll call you after the call.
Mr. Singleton,
Yes, sir.
as we say in the Baptist church, are you going to give an A and B selection after the offering plate has been passed?
Well. Thank you, Dr.
Impressive presentation. It took some time, but it was well worth it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, goodness.
Our next item, special school district, special education review, and we have Dr. Lent, and it's a homecoming for Miss Mac Riddle. So take it over.
All right, thank you, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Spurgeon, and Riverview Gardens community. Ms. Mac Riddle and I will be presenting quickly an overview of special education and give a few updates of some things that have been occurring. Again, as far as our agenda here, we're going to talk a little bit about the special ed process, the models. We're going to talk a little bit about our new focus on equity. And then we'll talk a little bit about some next steps. So special education, we do provide services for students who have disabilities. There are 14 different categorical disabilities that are identified by the federal government. Those are listed here. And so maybe move on to the next one. So along with those disabilities, one of the big pieces that special education, special school district is involved in is the overall process. And that goes all the way from the very beginning, pre-referral, those interventions, through the referral, the identification of students, the eligibility, developing that individual education plan, and then implementing it, and then also doing evaluations and reevaluations. And so we have some different service delivery models. Some of this is related to the amount of time that is spent in general education versus special education. But we have three essential layers. One would be, outside of this actually, would be all in gen ed and not within any special education setting. We have students who are in gen education setting with special education teachers, so it's a co-teaching model. We have some students who are pulled out of general education setting into what we would consider our resource room, so they would get specific instruction in areas of weakness. And then we also have some students who we would consider possibly self-contained, meaning that they would spend a majority of their time in special education with a special education teacher. So along with those direct instruction, we also have what we consider related services. Related services are there to support the special education services. And so these things are, for example, those health services, hearing impaired, interpretive language, music therapy. So these are the therapies and other services that we provide in order for us to be able to make progress and movement on our special education services. And then we also have supplementary aids and services. And so some of those things are connected back to those related services, but there are some additional pieces that we provide in order for students to be able to participate with their students with disabilities to participate with non-disabled students. And then for the next few slides, I'll turn that over to Ms. Mac Riddle.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board and Riverview Gardens School community. It is great to be here with all of you this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present this information to you. One of our goals here at Special School District is to ensure that we are focusing on equity. We want to ensure that we are looking at this from all angles of the county, specifically focusing on all areas. As I go through the information today, if there are any questions, I will entertain those questions at the end. And so our core value for equity is here before you. Every student, regardless of learning, ability, or socioeconomic status, they deserve access to these services that they need to succeed. And as we continue our work here at Special School District, this is what our focus is. And so currently we have an internal study that is taking place. And through this study, we are developing a framework to support all districts across the county. We're focusing on caseload numbers and minutes across the county, rates of identification, least restrictive environment, as well as rates of proficiency. And to break that down a little bit further, how much time are our students spending in special education settings versus general ed settings? How many students are on caseloads throughout the county, and how are we supporting those districts that may have marginalized and or underrepresented groups of students to ensure that we're focusing on the goals within each of the school communities. And so understanding, if you can go back for me, Shay. Thank you. So understanding those inequities in schools, again, these are our focus areas, looking at those historically underrepresented, underserved, as well as marginalized groups. Through this study, we focused on high rates of poverty. And again, as I spoke earlier, marginalized groups of students in those underserved and underrepresented areas throughout the county. Next slide. And so through this study, some of the information that we can share at this time is we know that there is a large variance of mobility rates that exist throughout the county. Looking at 8.6% in Rockwood, and as we look further into North County, a 43.5% mobility rate in Normandy School District. We also went further to take a look at poverty rates across the county, knowing that there is a 9% free and reduced lunch rate up to a 100% free and reduced lunch rate that exists. There are less than 5% of families that are living in poverty in the 8 districts that you see listed before you: Kirkwood, Rockwood, Webster Groves, Ladue, Clayton, Lindbergh, Brentwood, and Parkway. But in other areas of the county, we also know that there are other districts that have over 25% of their families living in poverty and are at a 100% free and reduced lunch rate. Riverview Gardens is one of those districts, along with Normandy, Jennings, Hancock Place, Hazelwood, Ferguson, Florissant, Rittner, as well as U-City. As we looked further, we know that Bayless and Rittner both have the largest proportion of ELL students in their districts, but we also looked at Kirkwood, Riverview Gardens, and Jennings, and they all have less than 1% of their population meeting that criteria. And so as we're looking to provide supports to each of our school districts from an equity lens, these are some of the angles that we're definitely taking a look at to ensure that we're focusing on those specific needs of school districts. And so as we've entertained this conversation, this has been our focus as we've developed budgets for each of our school districts to ensure that there is a focus. And I'm going to speak a little bit further about some of the plans moving forward to support Riverview Gardens. Next slide. So this is the Distressed Communities Index, and this information was used as an opportunity for us to really focus on zip codes throughout the county. This is it helps to inform you of those areas that are in distress and how to navigate services and programs to those particular areas. And so as you look at the information you have before you, you will see that as we take a look at that North County corridor, we see that that's where the majority of our at-risk and distressed communities exist. And so as we've reviewed this information and as we've had discussion, we talked about how can we further support school districts, but all school districts, but focusing on those that we know are distressed. Next slide. And so our focus is on instruction. And that is the purpose of the conversation tonight, to inform you of what we know about the inequities that exist in St. Louis County from an educational standpoint and our approach to support. And so, as you know, currently our director, Dr. Lent, serves not only Riverview Gardens, but he also serves Jennings School District as well. As we move forward for next school year, each district throughout St. Louis County will have a full-time director, and depending on the size of the district, as well as specific targeted areas, we have determined specific needs. And so we will have adjustments to our staffing plan from an administrative and instructional standpoint. Further, we will have 4 special education coordinators, and currently the titles that exist are area coordinators. We want to ensure that individuals truly understand the purpose of our special education coordinators and how they support school districts. We want them to be seen and received as administrators, and not just someone who is in an area of supporting from compliance and those pieces, but they should be members of leadership teams at the school level. The director will be full-time working with the leadership team at the district level. And the additional layer that will be added will be 2 instructional coaches. And so most districts received 1 instructional coach, but as we look to address those inequities that we know exist, we know that in order for us to do that, we must focus on instruction. And so Riverview Gardens will have 2 full-time instructional coaches that will be of support and will work side by side with the district in the areas of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And so we're extremely excited about the opportunity to have these positions added to our staffing plan for next year, and to ensure that we're all focusing on the same goals. And so our next steps include creating a unified plan with partner districts, and this work is already in process. We have done a lot of work with Dr. Nichols as well as Dr. Patton and their teams to develop plans, as well as Dr. Lent to develop plans to support Riverview Gardens moving forward. And through that, we will focus on the implementation of multi-tiered systems of supports. And this will support both academic and social emotional learning. And these are areas in which we look at the interventions that are provided to support students not only who are receiving special education services, but students who may be struggling or students who may be identified as a student to potentially receive services. And we will continue to work through these processes to ensure that everyone has a clear understanding of what those plans look like and how we will support moving forward. We want to ensure that we are increasing inclusion of students with IEPs in general education environments. And as we look through that equity lens, what we do know is that a lot of our districts outside of North County, they have more opportunities for students to be a part of the gen ed setting. And that has a lot to do with the staffing component and how schedules are created at the school level, and it will then help us to determine how to include them. This generally looks like that service delivery model that Dr. Lent talked about, where students are in gen ed settings, in co-taught classroom settings, and they're working side by side with gen ed as well as special ed teachers. We want to ensure that as we continue to focus on inequities, that we do it collaboratively. Our budget presentation, we've just completed that process, and that was an approach that included both Special School District and Riverview Gardens working collectively to look at students' progress of those students who are receiving services, but to also look at those areas of disproportionalities that we know exist. And Riverview Gardens is one of those districts that has been identified as having students, African-American males, receiving suspensions at higher rates as compared to other surrounding districts. And so we are doing work with the leadership team in Riverview Gardens to determine the best approach to address this, looking at the funding that we have available. We are looking to determine how we can be of support for school districts from an intervention standpoint, but also to ensure that we're decreasing the number of students who are receiving the suspensions. And so as we move further, we want to ensure that as strategic plans are being developed, that our administrators and our instructional staff, that they play a key role in those processes. We have completed work with regards to updating the integrated tiered models of support, which kind of falls in again with that MTSS and the SEL components that I talked about earlier. In addition to that, professional learning plans, we want to ensure that the learning plans that we are creating, as well as the professional development opportunities that we are creating, not only supports the special education staff, but how can we also support Riverview Gardens staff in GNS settings with understanding processes through the lens of special education, but to also, again, be aligned to support students in total. And last but not least, here, we want to ensure that we're addressing the technology needs of our students, staff, and classrooms. And as we've conducted observations throughout the county, and as we've had conversations with our leaders throughout the county, we have supported those districts that have been in need, and we will continue to do that. I think to date, we supported with the high school. There were a large group of students initially at the beginning of the year where we were able to provide technology to them to ensure that there were no delays and gaps in instruction. But at the same time, how can we improve our efforts of instruction from a virtual standpoint? And so we do receive information from individual teachers, but we also look at it from the lens of what the needs are from districts as well too. And at this time, I open it up for questions. Are there any questions?
Ms. Mario?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Ms. Oswald?
No, you addressed my questions through your presentation. Thank you.
Dr. Lent and Ms. McRiddle, this was a great presentation. I'm going to ask Shay if she's listening to make a hard copy for me. I've been out of K-12 education for about 20 years, so a lot has changed since that time, and a lot that was in this presentation will help to bring me up to date. Question for either of you. What was the impetus for making these changes, especially giving more resources to those schools in North County who are most in need?
Absolutely. So the focus again, Dr. Beckwith, was on instruction. And as we continue to look at student growth and performance throughout the county, we know that it was important for us to focus on how we could better improve and provide resources throughout the county, ensuring that whatever we provide to one district, we provide to all, but again, focusing on those districts who are identified as targeted districts, comprehensive districts. We wanted to ensure that we were another layer of support and a resource to districts to help in those particular areas.
You want to add to that, Dr. Lent?
I think the big thing from my perspective is when we help all students, we help special ed students or students with special ed needs. And I think that's part of this model is really looking at how are we helping support all students in Riverview Gardens. And with the idea that that will benefit everybody.
Okay, great presentation. And Ms. McRiddle, good to see you again.
It's great to see you as well, all of you.
Thank you. Our next item, and let me make this statement. I think if each of the next presentations take 5 minutes without questions, we're going to be here another hour. So I'm going to ask for the next two items and then all of the discussion items to be as succinct as possible. So the next item is federal program spending report. Ms. Lomas.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. I bring this just for information for you, an update on the grant allocation balances by school and by grant. And as you see, many of the schools have spent down their funds at this particular point. We have a couple schools that have pending requisitions in the system for technology where we had been waiting on some quotes. And as you know, there is a shortage on some technology. So there is some encumbrances that still exist that we hope are going to make it all the way through to receiving those items before the end of this grant cycle. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald,
No questions.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
The only one I have, Ms. Loomis, I see where the LEA SIG has 78% of its money left. What's the problem there?
Sir, there's $34,000 tied up in salary and benefits for a position for a substitute that was not filled when we went virtual and then we went to outsourcing. That is pending a revision and DESI's approval of that carryover revision application. So we had hoped that we would have that approval already by this time. So that money will go back into purchase service to be able to reimburse for a substitute.
Thank you. No other questions. Comparative analysis for virtual and in-person learning. I think that's Dr. Triplett.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board members, Superintendent, colleagues, and community members. Shay, can you pull that document up? I don't know if I need to envy or ask Levon for those snacks that allows him to be that energetic at 8 p.m. on a school night. Tonight, I want to present to you for information the composite and comparative analysis for virtual and in-person learning between semesters 1 and 2 for the school year 2021. And just so we understand that, green indicates an increase in numbers for semesters 2 as compared to semester 1 in the same area. Red indicates a decrease in numbers for semester 2 as compared to semester 1 in the same areas. And the white indicates no change. Black indicates no numbers were available for in-person learning because it was not an option as the case for secondary schools. When comparing semesters 1 and 2, virtual numbers increased by 77% or 3%, 77 or 3%. The in-person numbers decreased by 78 or 3%, and the overall numbers of families surveyed increased by 5. With regards to the composite data, for semester 2, the data revealed that virtual numbers for primary schools were 1,243 or 45%, 1,501 or 55% for a total of 2,750 for 100%. With regards to the secondary schools, I do want to apologize. My total, I don't know, I guess black line happy, but the total numbers for secondary schools are as follows. For virtual, the virtual numbers were 1,780 or 71%. The in-person numbers were 741 or 29%, and then the total numbers were 2,521 for 100%. The last number, column, or row, are the final numbers for the district total. If you're looking at the document, these are per school. I just want to focus on district totals, but as you can see, there are some increases and some decreases, and then we have roughly 43% of students returning district-wide. Are there any, so that being said, I ask that the Special Administrative Board accept this as information, and are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
Okay. No questions, but a comment, Dr. Triplett. That bow tie you're wearing gives Mr. Singleton a run for his money. Well done.
Thank you. Don't let him know that he's going to go shopping right now.
Going to give me a new one tomorrow.
He's shopping right now.
Thank you. We're down to our discussion items. Policy recommendations. Patricia?
Yes, hello. Good evening, members of the SAB, administration, and colleagues. I present to you policies for discussion. The first policy is by Shay Fields. It's policy BBFA. It's a revision for board member conflict of interest and financial disclosure. MSBA has modified this policy to make it clear the board is responsible for setting an appropriate limit on gifts and gratuities that may be accepted by board members and others subjected to this policy. The next policy is submitted by Levon Singleton. The policy is DEA, revenues from tax sources. MSBA has revised this policy to be clear and direct pertaining to the classes of revenues and the role the board and superintendents play. The policy also allows the superintendent to take all necessary steps to maximize local, state, and federal funding with the law. The next policy by Mr. Singleton, policy DJFA, federal programs and projects. MSBA has revised this policy to be more clear and precise pertaining to some of the federal terminology. And basically it expresses the board can excuse its members who violate the federal construction contract bidding and award policy. The next policy by Mr. Singleton, policy FED, selection of a construction manager at risk. MSBA has revised this policy to reflect changes brought about by Senate Bill 167 and now requires construction managers at risk to provide a performance bond when contract cost or a project exceed $50,000. The next policy by Mr. Singleton, policy FEF, construction contracts bidding and awards. And basically MSBA has revised this policy to be aligned with state regulations. It's recommended that legal counsel is assisted with this policy and that any construction projects over 50,000 be advertised in a reliable newspaper once a week for 2 weeks. It's also recommended the school district require a bidder's bond based on an estimated cost of the project, and it also requires the contractor to pay a prevailing wage. The next policy by Mr. Singleton, actually it's a procedure, FEFAP1, which goes with the policy FEF. The procedure is for construction contracts bidding awards. Any construction project over 50,000 must be advertised in a reliable paper, and this procedure is being submitted to Dr. Spurgeon for approval. The next few policies are by Dr. Triplett. Policy IHB, class size. Most districts strive to meet DESE's class size, but MSBA does not recommend the district adopt this policy because it would actually reduce the flexibility that teachers would have and not being able to meet those guidelines from the standards. The next policy by Dr. Triplett, IKF, graduation requirements. MSBA has included a provision for graduation requirements that allows the legal requirement to pass a civics exam to be waived by a student who has an IEP. The next policy, policy JFG, searches for students. Basically, MSBA has divided JFG into two policies. This first one is JFG. Basically, this addresses student searches exclusively. The new policy, JFGA, is devoted to interviews. JFG also has a policy guidelines that address using drug detection dogs. There's also a procedure that goes with this policy, JFG-AP1, and a form JFG-AF1, which addresses the form and guidelines on how this policy should be carried out. Policy by Dr. Triplett, JFGA, interviews with or removal of students. Basically, again, JFG was separated into two policies, and this JFGA addresses interviews with students and removal of students. And the final policy by Dr. Triplett, policy JG, for student discipline. MSBA has revised this policy to remove reference to secluding students, and it basically is stating that seclusion should never be used for disciplinary reasons for students. Does anyone have any discussions about the policies that have been presented tonight?
Ms. Morreal?
I have none, and to be transparent, I've already seen those policies as a member of our Region 7 Executive Committee.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Just a comment, Patricia, it appears that the policy committee has been busy with its work, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, they've been hard at work. We're getting through them a little bit at a time. So
Very
thank
good.
you. Thanks.
We're now down to item 8B, fire alarm upgrade phase 2. Is that Ms. Green?
Yes, good evening once again. I come before you every year, the beginning of the year, we do a fire alarm inspection in all of our buildings. So this year at Gibson, Highland, and Meadows and LeMasters, once they got in to do their inspections, they found out that some of the devices are no longer supported by the manufacturer. So therefore, the front end needs to be upgraded. And so it's at a cost at $14,505. And it has a contingency of $1,451 for a total not to exceed price of $15,956. And this is a proprietary system, so no other company but Midwest could do this replacement. So I'm recommending that the board approve at the next meeting to service with Midwest Electronics to replace the front end of the fire alarm system at those schools that I mentioned earlier at a cost not to exceed $15,595. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald,
No questions.
Ms. Morrill?
I have no questions.
I have no questions. We're down to the fund balance report. Mr. Singleton, give us the short version.
Okay, let me turn my, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. The short version of the fund balance report is page 2. So this is the fund balance ending as of January 31st, 2021. So we're 7 months into the fiscal year. I would just like to comment on this first page that those middle 2 columns, the year-to-date revenues and expenditures, obviously our revenues have picked up more than our expenditures, and that's the situation that we want to find ourselves in. So nothing real heavy to report here. Go to the next page, Shay. This just talks about all of the grant expenditures, $11.5 million. We've encumbered $1.8 million, and we still got about $5 million available. A lot of that is with title, and Kim has addressed, trying to get those spending numbers down already. So move to the next page. The expenditures piece of this, that's the same page, Shay. I think go to the next one for, okay, that's the expenditures. I'm sorry, those are the revenues. So we've got about $8.3 million, and these are all just grant revenues. So these are the federal grants that we have. We've got $10.8 million worth of the revisions. We see that we've seen about $6 million, and we've still got about $4 million to collect. We generally get those monies once we file those expenditure reports, and we've got some reports that are upcoming and due to get those outstanding receipts. Next page. All right, so this here just gives us a breakdown of the revenues by category. So we've got our general fund, teachers fund, debt service, and that's basically how we budget those funds. So $23 million into the general fund in revenues, $29 million into the teachers funds at this point, and we've got those outstanding collections and those fund balances as well. Next page. The expenditure piece of this, the quick version of this is the revenues are matching the expenditures here. So $26 million in expenses in the general fund, teachers fund about $27 million. We still got debt service payments that we're paying for, and also our food service information is there as well. Those expenditures are there. Next page. All right, our revenues again, year-to-year comparison. The previous page compared it by the funds for this current year. These are year-to-year comparisons. So we look at 19, 20, and 21, those years, and you can see the numbers are very consistent. $17 million across the board, $13 and $14 million. So nothing really out of the ordinary here, just looking at the year-to-year revenue comparisons. Go to the next page, and the final page, page 8 is the same information, but we look at the expenditures and how they compare year to year for those 11 or for those 7 months ending January 31st. And again, those numbers are very consistent than what they have been in previous years. And that's the short and condensed version of the fund balance report. I think we're in good shape, Dr. Beckwith. That's a report summary. Any
Very
questions?
good.
All right.
Ms. Morrill, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Singleton, on page 2 concerning the CARES Act funds, do we have another year to spend that money?
Yes, sir. So most of the first round of CARES Act monies run out in September of 22. So we still have about a year and a half to spend those monies. But we do have an upcoming additional round of CARES Act monies. That's that $15 million that I mentioned a couple times in the board letter. Those have a 2-year cycle as well. So there's some CARES Act funds that end in September of 22, and there's some that end in September of 23.
So, and as I recall in your board letter, you mentioned that the challenge is those funds are reimbursable, that you have to spend.
Right, and I'm going to present to the board at the next meeting. We'll get into those funds because it's very important that we understand that those are reimbursement funds. This first set of CARES Act funds, they gave them to school districts, and we told them how we were going to spend. But this next set of funds, we are going to have to spend our dollars and proceed with reimbursement. You know, and that's okay. You know, but we certainly have to know that we have to spend our monies in order to get reimbursed, and that's the type of setup for this next round of CARES Act. So it's just not a free for all where we get the monies in our coffers and it helps us with our fund balances and those kinds of things. This actually, we're going to have to spend our monies first in order to be reimbursed.
Thank you. Unified Threat Management System with antivirus. Who's doing that?
It's Jessalyn Larry. Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Larry.
Any district receiving federal funds is required to be SIPA, Children's Internet Protection Act, compliant. You need a filter, you need a firewall, you need an antivirus. A few years ago, we decided to move to a unified threat management system, SOPHOS. That contract expires April 1st of this year. This is not the time to make changes. Last year, when we switched to an internet provider, it took us 3 months beyond the projected due date. And I won't even mention those Chromebooks that were delayed 6 months. Therefore, we are recommending the renewal of the contract with SOPHOS, a 15-month renewal, because I wanted to end with the fiscal year in the amount of $44,680, which will be taken from the technology budget. I am recommending that this occur at the March 9th meeting and that the board allow us to purchase that. Are there any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
I have no questions, Dr. Larry. The next item, Charter FiberLink Wide Area Network.
On January 13th, we issued a Form 470 E-rate RFP for Wide Area Network, which is basically data transmission. Several companies, several vendors responded: Charter, WAN-RAC, Vero Network, and ENA. A committee consisting of Tom Randolph, Tina Turnipseed, Greg Newell, and I evaluated the responses. While WAN-RAC appeared to be the least expensive, it was $6,970, but it also required a $1.3 million construction fee, as well as they're saying it would take 3 months at least to do that construction. Therefore, Charter was the least expensive option. I am therefore recommending that at the March 9th meeting, we approve $263,444 to Charter, of which $147,096 will come from USAC and $16,344 will come from the technology budget. After which, with your approval, I will file the E-rate Form 471 seeking funding. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Morrill?
No questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions. TSI cable maintenance?
Again, on January 13th, we released the E-rate Form 470 seeking cable maintenance. The only vendor to respond was TSI. This contract is only used as necessary. Usually I require them to visit all the schools in the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, just to make sure there are no wires hanging or whatever, or network jacks that need repairing. Unless there's a major issue, they won't be back in the buildings. I am therefore recommending we sign a contract of $73,000 with TSI, $62,000 of which will come from USAC, $10,950 will come from the tech budget. Again, I will seek this approval on March 9th And after that approval, I will seek funding from USAC by filing the Form 471. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Morrow,
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
I have no questions. Continuation of the NEA internet contract?
This is not really, I want to discuss it because this is an existing contract that this will be the second year of it. This is for the district 5 gigabit internet service. We are continuing this contract, but to make sure that I'm E-rate compliant, I am bringing it for the board to make you aware that we are continuing the contract of the second year of that contract, that is. And I am seeking your permission with your approval to file the Form 471 seeking funding for $36,900. The total $33,210 will come from USAC, $3,690 will come from the technology budget. Any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrow?
Questions?
Yes. You said no questions.
I have no questions.
Okay, I have no questions. Replacement of staff computers?
We conducted an audit of the district computers a few weeks ago. What we found that a number of the staff are using old, outdated equipment. They are unable to do the Zoom or unable to do Google Meets. They don't have cameras, some of them don't have microphones. Therefore, I am recommending that we at least start with the staff and maybe the principals. Some of the schools have ordered machines for their building, so I'm not really sure about those. But we want to do the principals and we want to do the office staff first. I know Glasgow, the high school, Gibson, Central, Coke, and Danforth have purchased a number of machines, so I'm not sure about them. But I want to make sure that we provide our staff with the requirements to do their job. Therefore, I am seeking to spend $124,065 from SHI, which is the holder of the state contract. And I'm seeking approval at the March 9th board meeting to purchase those computers. The money will be taken from the technology budget. Any questions?
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Ms. Morrow?
No questions.
No questions. Thank you for your five items you presented succinctly, Dr. Larry. We'll go to item I, federal programs, connectivity grants. Ms. Lomas?
Sir, that's a hard act to follow, but I'm going to try and help Dr. Larry get some of her money back. So in following up, what I'm requesting this evening is to apply for connectivity grants through DESE. These are extensions of the CARES Act. As you see in the body of this, one grant was already applied for due to the deadline, the urgency to apply for and request the reimbursement of the $52,000 available to the district. That was an amount that was allocated to each school for reimbursement of $4,000, and that was for connectivity. The grant that we are going to apply for is a CARES Act student connectivity grant that would provide the district with a reimbursement of $343,000. And that is in an effort to offset some of the costs from the technology budget that Dr. Larry just listed. Those amounts are reimbursable through these funds once we apply for them. It also will provide resources to each school for additional technology if that is what is chosen for us to spend district funds on. As we know, students are coming back and sometimes the Chromebooks that were issued to them will not be operational. They'll need some repair or replacement. And so this is an opportunity for us to have additional items in the buildings that would assist with use on a daily basis and specifically for testing needs. Any questions?
Ms. Morrow?
I have no questions.
Ms. Oswald?
No questions.
Neither do I. Well done, Ms. Lomas. Family and Workforce Centers of America. Who's doing that?
I'm doing that, Dr. Beckwith. If you can give me a few minutes, I can run and get one of my husband's bow ties and compete with Dr. Triplett and CFO Singleton. I can do that too. All right. Good evening, SAB, Dr. Spurgeon, colleagues and stakeholders. Tonight, I present for your consideration an MOU between the Family and Workforce Center of America and RGSD, which will benefit our high school students. Can you guys hear me very well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good. The Family and Workforce is a strategic partnership created to stimulate the economy and to help individuals living in low and to moderate income. I'm trying to get through this and meet my 2.5 minutes. We seek to develop and maintain partnerships with agency providers. The outcome is that this partnership will help our students improve their overall ability to gain meaningful employment, access higher education, and interact with the community in a positive and productive manner. Some of the anticipated outcomes will be improved relationships with families, community, and their school families, job skills, training, apprenticeship, and placement, not only for our scholars, but for their parents as well. Increased positive education and career placement outcomes. It will also create additional career paths for our high schoolers and possibly create more career and technical partnerships. This program is in alignment with Goal 2, MSEP 3, and Dr. Beckwith will be happy with this. It is at no cost to our district.
Excellent.
We will measure our outcomes by the reduction of office referrals and suspensions, increased summer apprenticeships for our scholars and their families, providing employment for our parents, which will serve to improve the home life of our RGSD families and build partnerships with them. Again, I'm presenting this for your consideration. Are there any questions?
Ms. Morrill.
I like that no cost to the district.
I bet.
Ms. Oswald.
No questions.
Dr. Patton, no cost to the district is always music to my ears.
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, Ms. Green said, make sure you let Dr. Beckwith know it's no cost to the district.
I'm sold on that. And our last discussion item, McRae data-driven professional development for principals. That's Dr. Triplett.
Actually, I am presenting the information.
Okay, Ms. Sharp.
Good evening to the Special Administrative Board, Superintendent Spurgeon, colleagues, and members of the community. Tonight, I'm presenting the McRae Data-Driven Professional Development for Principals as a discussion item. This request is a continuation of professional learning that occurred in the spring of 2020. With your approval, this request will provide 3 days of professional development for principals, and included in that would also be the introduction or preparation for the administrative retreat, which is slated to occur in the last week of May, early June. The request adheres to the leadership strand, which is articulated in CESA plan. The total cost for this request will not exceed $12,850, and that will be taken from the PD 1% budget. I'll entertain any questions that you have at this time.
Ms. Morrill. Ms. Morrill. Ms. Oswald.
No questions.
I have no questions. Thank you. We're now on our consent agenda. May I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? I second for Ms. Morrill. Ready for the question? Hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. We have one action item, federal programs connectivity grant, and Ms. Kim Loomis has already talked to us about that. May I have a motion for approval?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Ready for the question. Are there any? Hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Now time to adjourn. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Is
Second.
there a second? Both of you all said at the same time. We'll take one of you as the second. Ready for the question? Hearing none. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, and have a pleasant night.
You do the same.
Looking forward to those bow ties.
Bye.